Hi, welcome to the podcast, the Start a Courier Business podcast. So this is for anybody who's in the industry, whether you're thinking of launching, whether you are growing your courier business that you've already got, or you're looking to scale up and teams, take on some drivers, new contracts, etc. So it's really a whole industry related podcast for anyone who is in logistics. So today I'm going to discuss how to start a courier business, and I'm going to base that around my own experience. So I have launched my own courier business and scaled it very quickly, got some contracts, turned it into a 7-figure business within about 18 months, took on some fantastic drivers and a great team, but it was with an awful lot of struggles along the way. Really wanted to give a bit more insight into how we did it and what that looked like from a perspective of growing and scaling. So let's go back to before we started the business. My partner and I, decided that we wanted to get into logistics, and we were just finishing up in another business. We were in a pretty tough place at the time financially, so we wanted to find a business that we could get into that would give us some financial freedom. We wanted to grow a business where we could run teams, where we could free ourselves up from the business eventually to then enjoy time with the family, enjoy time away from the business, which is what we've managed to do when you get it to a certain level. So that is achievable for anybody who sets their sights on doing it. As I say, we've got no special qualifications or anything like that. We didn't have bags of money to start the business with either. You just need to be very persistent, and you need to be very strong-willed, and you need to have your eyes on the target and never let go. So to get that initial knowledge in the industry, start from the ground up, we went out and we got ourselves a job as Amazon van drivers. So we bought a couple of vans, we went out there and we worked for an Amazon DSP, which is like a contractor that takes on drivers. And all the time we were doing this, we kind of had an idea that we wanted to get into our own business. But at that point, we didn't know how we were going to do it, or, what it would look like. So we went out and slogged for several months, and we were delivering 150, 180 stops a day. And anyone who's in that industry knows how bloody hard it is. It's tough doing it day in, day out, 6 days a week. It's relentless, in and out of the van 180 times. But we found that a lot of people do start their journey in logistics in multi-drop because that seems to be quite an easy entry point, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people do that, but what tends to happen is then they'll start off in multi-drop for a while. It gradually grinds you down and wears you out a little bit, and then you think, actually, what else can I do in the industry? And then people transition into other areas like same-day work or man and van or removals or whatever they want to do. Having done the Amazon driver bit for a while, we fortunately enough managed to land ourselves with a parcel delivery contract, which we worked extremely hard to get. Took us a long time to get the contract. Obviously, the other thing that comes with that is the actual setup of the business itself. So that's another thing you need to consider. So you have to register your business if you're going to be self-employed, or if you're going to be a limited company. That's the first decision that you would make. You might need some finance if you're going to get into borrowing some money for some vans or borrowing some money for your startup costs. Now, if you're going to be getting into any kind of work where you're on payment terms, a lot of companies will put you on a 30-day or maybe a 60-day term where they're going to pay you after that period of time. The first thing you need to consider is how you're going to pay yourself or your team if you've got more than one driver for those first 30 or 60 days. So bear that in mind as well when you're starting off. You have to register for VAT if that's something that you're going to hit relatively quickly. If it's just yourself, then that wouldn't be too much of an issue to start with. But I think the VAT threshold now is somewhere in the region of about £85,000. Once your business takes 85 grand, then you've got to start paying VAT. And if you do have a contract with a few vehicles, you can really hit that very quickly. So consider that as well. you're going to need to put some kind of a business plan together, and then you would gradually grow it and scale it up from there. So you might not necessarily need all of those things to start with, but there's certainly things that you would encounter along the way, even if it's further down the line. So there's loads more subjects there for future podcasts, which we'll cover off in weeks to come, all about the details of what you need to start your business, what your business plan might look like, and your costings and your vans, all of that stuff. So we'll have a podcast on pretty much every single subject. So we've got tons to get through over the coming weeks and months, which is great. So I won't go into too much detail about the actual operation of the business, because again, that's another subject altogether. But if we're talking about the nuts and bolts of how we grew and how we transitioned, we got to a point probably a year or so in, we decided to look into same-day courier work. That was the steepest learning curve for me. And I like to be quite prepared when I'm getting myself involved in new things and do my research and find out all the facts and the figures, which is human nature. Everyone wants to know that. They want to know how much they can earn. They want to know what type of van they need. They want to know all the details. So I went online to start researching it. And surprisingly, there wasn't anywhere that I could find all the information in one place. And it was so time consuming and so frustrating, because you'd ask a question online on Google, for example, like, what van does a courier use? And I'm sure you've probably done it yourself. You get 10, 20, 30 different answers back from all these different websites that claim to be the authority on the situation. Some of them are just generic websites, which are just telling you about vans and they don't really know what they're talking about. Others are a bit more specific, but they all give you different messages. They all tell you that this is the best type of van, or you should buy an old van and start with nothing, or you should buy a brand new van. And, there's lots of different conflicting information. So when you put all that together from all of those different sources, you end up not knowing what to believe. And it was a real minefield. So we muddled our way through, and then we got to stuff like, how much does a courier charge? Because they're all so different. You get some rates of a small van, which is £1 a mile. You get other rates, which are £1.50 a mile. And then you look at bigger vehicles like your 7.5 tons or your Lutons, and some people are charging £1.50 for them, and some people are charging £5 for them per mile. So it was so tough to get that information. And of course, nobody wants to give you that information in the industry, because it's all a little bit of a closely guarded secret, because who wants to give away all their price lists out into the public domain? It's understandable. Not everyone's trying to compete for the work, so they're not really going to be very forthcoming with stuff like that. Insurance, we had to do a lot of research on insurance, because the biggest mistake people make with insurance, which is something we've got coming up in one of our next podcasts, is they don't have the right type of insurance. It still amazes me the amount of people that are out there doing this work with just regular van insurance, and they're putting everything at risk. They don't have any goods in transit. They don't have any public liability. They don't have any hire or reward. And all of these things you must have as an absolute minimum if you're going to be successful in the industry. So all of this stuff in the early days, really struggled to find it all out definitively and get a proper, honest answer from anybody. My first venture into same day was, I put one van out on the road, and I was in the office controlling and getting the jobs. Courier Exchange I signed up to. It's a lot of money to sign up to Courier Exchange. I think it's worth it. Other people say it's not worth it, it's a waste of money, but we run several vehicles a day on Courier Exchange very successfully. My opinion of it is that it works if you use it properly and if you know how to use it. And again, that's something that I'm going to go into in a lot more detail in future podcasts. And we're also going to develop some training programs for Courier Exchange as well, which I'm really pleased to tell you about. So there wasn't any knowledge of Courier Exchange when I started. I didn't know how it worked, because even when you sign up, they don't give you actually a demo. They might give you a little demo of it now for 5 minutes before you sign up. But once you're a member, it's just like, there's your sign in, you crack on and make what you can of it. So I was sending my one van all over the country. I was finishing jobs with him up in Liverpool or Manchester. We're based down south in Swindon. So I was having my van all over the country at 4:00 in the afternoon with absolutely nothing to come back with. And it was a nightmare because I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know about how backloads works. I didn't realize that work, if you're looking on the platforms, that work dries up by mid-afternoon, and you've got to bid different prices at different times of the day to get the work. Nobody tells you any of this because Courier Exchange just want to sell you their platform. So they just give you the impression that there's thousands of jobs on there, which there is, but you need to learn, or you need to be taught how it works, and you need to be taught the best way to use it. And if you know the best way to use it, someone can show you that from day one, and you have some proper demos and some proper teaching, what a difference it makes. Yeah. So that was my first couple of months in same day, and it was an absolute nightmare, and I nearly threw in the towel several times when, I'm running my guy back 200 miles empty and made a loss for the day. And that's what a lot of couriers do without that knowledge of exactly how it all works, because there's a lot of things to consider. The other thing is, if you're the guy that is driving the van, how are you going to look for jobs and drive the van without getting points on your license? I had the privilege of being in the office myself and getting jobs for my guy, so I could be on there trying to get jobs. Obviously, we got one or two of our own customers at that point as well, which helps. So, you can get better paying jobs if you've got your own customers, and then you use the courier platforms as backloads to get you home again at the end of the day. And that's generally how it works. So you get a nice, decent paying job that takes you out somewhere, and then you jump on your courier platform to get you back home again. Or you might got around 3 or 4 jobs throughout the country or throughout the day that eventually gets you back to where you started from. But, in terms of pricing in same day work, well, we certainly find the best paying jobs we get are in the mornings, because they're probably from our own customers direct. And then as the day goes on, the prices that you can get on the platforms gradually get lower and lower. But let me ask you this, if you are 100 miles away from home, wherever you are in the country, would you rather drive home empty? Say you charge £1.50 a mile. Okay, so you would normally, if you were 100 miles from home, you would charge 150 quid to get home if it was a paying job. But if you're 100 miles from home at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, would you rather drive home empty and have nothing, or would you rather drive home and someone gives you 50 quid for putting something in the back of the van? And that's how backloads work. And this is a massive talking point in the industry. And some people are saying, well, backloads shouldn't be backloads because the rate is the same regardless of what time of day it is and regardless of this, that, and the other. But the point is, everyone is going home somewhere on the latter part of the day, unless they're tramping and staying overnight. That's a different matter altogether. But everyone is trying to get back from some decent paying jobs. So that is the thought process of everyone who's trying to get from A to B and get themselves home. How much am I willing to go down to put a few quid in the van? Because that could pay your fuel for the day. And that's the way the industry goes. So for the people that whinge about backloads and the people that whinge about the prices in the afternoons, that's the industry. That's how it works. Unless you've got your own paying customers the whole day through, there and back and all over the country, which you might be fortunate enough to have. We've got several of our own customers and it works very well. But unless you've got the luxury of that, and it takes quite a long time to get to that point, then you're going to have to suck up the backload rates, and you're going to have to play the system and understand how it works. And you're going to have to take a hit sometimes on a day just to get you home at a lower rate, and you average it out across your week, because not every day is going to be good. You're going to have some real smashing days. Fridays, you're going to cash in, you're going to do really well. You might have a Friday where you earn 400 quid, 500 quid perhaps, depending on the size of your van. But then you might have a Monday and you do 100. So you've got to average it out across a week. So when it comes to starting or scaling your own business, you've got to have a kind of an idea of what you're trying to achieve. Whether you're happy to be out there driving a van for several years or the foreseeable future. If it's just you and your vehicle, then that's fine. That keeps your overheads down to a manageable cost. And that's what you want. There's loads of people that do that for their whole careers. Some people have slightly bigger aspirations than that, and they know from the outset that they want to grow a team and they want to expand it and they want to grow a business. And that was our mindset. And that was how we managed to do it in a relatively quick space of time. So alongside all this other stuff that we had going on, we had the parcel delivery contract. We then had the same day stuff, which we then grew. We added more vehicles into the same day stuff, which we've got now. All the time this is happening, we're adding more customers of our own into our platform and into our business, which then gives you better paying jobs. And then we started picking up more parcel work from other companies. And my opinion of parcel work is it's bloody hard and doesn't earn you a lot of money, but it's bread and butter. It's a base, it's a foundation to earn some guaranteed regular money in your business if that's what you want to do. It does bring a lot of hassle with it. It brings a lot of van damage. It brings a lot of driver hassles and all sorts of nightmares that you would potentially go through in parcel delivery work. But it's worked for us. We've done several different contracts in different carriers. Some are better than others. I've got opinions on a lot of them in the way that they're run in their depots, but that's quite a personal, individual situation because it depends. One depot of DPD could be completely different to another depot of DPD, and it's all down to the operations teams or the depot manager or literally how they run the place. So if anyone says to you, leave, don't touch DPD with a barge pole, then they're being too generalised because they've got a bad experience maybe of one depot that they've worked in. They're not all the same. I've spoken to several people in the business that are in depots and they've really got on well and they love it. And then others have said, oh, well, I was in the other depot 10 miles away and it was absolute bollocks. So, all I'm saying is don't trust everyone's opinion the second that you hear it. Make sure that you consider all of the options because one person's opinion is of their experience. And again, my opinion is of my experience, but I try to stay as impartial as I can to educate people and to give people the options and the decision-making process themselves, and then they can go out and make their own decisions. And then we've got to a point where we've decided that we wanted to create this platform. So Start a Courier Business is a one-stop shop for anyone who's already in the industry or anyone who wants to get into the industry or just to start and grow and scale. It's a means where everyone can come together. Obviously, I know there's a lot of social media groups out there around couriers and logistics and stuff like that. But the aim of this group is to be a little bit more inclusive, a little bit more supportive. It's not a place where you're going to see people talking down to each other or, pushing people around or bullying people, because I've experienced that myself when we were starting up. I was asking questions on social media groups, simple stuff like, how much should I be charging or what's your opinion on this type of vehicle? And the amount of answers that came back that were just so negative or discouraging. And I've got two opinions of those answers and those people. I think, firstly, half of the people might even be giving you the wrong answers because they might not even know themselves. They're just basing it on their little bit of experience and they're giving you the answer that their gut tells them, like, I think DPD is shit, for example, which I've already mentioned. And the other half of the negative people on social media platforms are probably going to be your competition. So why would they want to share their information and give it out to you? So they're going to be trying to steer you in the wrong direction as well. And this is what I experienced a lot of when I was just trying to research my business. And that's exactly why we've created this platform. Okay. So we're not trying to guard any secrets. We think that across the UK, there is plenty of work for everybody. For the people that want to do it properly, there's two parts of the industry, I think. There's the part of the industry that does everything as cheaply as it can. It does it at rock bottom prices and they cut corners and they don't have the right insurance and they don't even have a pod book in their van and they don't have any straps in their van and they just cut corners from left, right and centre. That's one half of the industry. And then you've got the other half who are doing things absolutely by the book. They're excelling in everything they do. Their customer service is spot on. And that's what you need to aspire to be. And if you aspire to be that, then you've got half a chance of being successful. Above all, don't give up. Okay, it's bloody hard to get some of these parcel contracts. Took me a long time. If you want to work with a particular company, you want to get a particular contract that you think there is a possibility you can get, initially you're going to get a no. You might find it really hard to get the contact for someone in there. But once you've got the first conversation, you then build on that. You follow it up. Let me give you a quick example. I approached one of the big parcel carriers in the early days about doing some work for them. And I got an email back pretty much the next day from the depot manager. And it said, thanks for your inquiry, but we're okay at the minute. We don't need anybody. Literally within a week, the guy was ringing me back, invited me in for a meeting, and he said, look, the circumstances have changed. We've had a problem with one of our big contractors and everything's changed. And now we have got some routes available. So all I'm saying is anything is achievable, but don't give up. Make sure that you just keep going. And the same applies to getting your own personal customers if you're doing same day work. It's really tough to get your own customers. You think you can go in and do a leaflet drop, or you can ring someone up, or you can approach a company, and you think they're just going to say, yeah, that's fine, we'll give you a try. But think about how many other couriers there are out there. They've already got a courier company that they're using. Chances are they're going to be very happy with the company that they're using. So what you need to do is make an introduction. You need to just go back to them every now and again and just remind them that you're there. And eventually, if the existing company circumstances change, or if they fuck up, or if something happens and it goes wrong, because you're the one that just keeps reminding them, you've connected with them on LinkedIn, you've sent them an email, you've reminded them and prompted them a couple of times. When something does go wrong, you will then be in their mind and they'll pick up the phone, and all of a sudden you'll have a job at half an hour's notice, and that might land you your next big contract. So make sure you follow up every single opportunity, connect with as many people as you possibly can, and do not give up. So thank you very much for that. We're going to cover off a lot more stuff in the future episodes. One thing I have got coming up, which I'm really excited about, which we're going to launch in the next few days, we are going to start getting drivers onto the podcast. So this is only going to be available for our closed social media group. So if you're not already a member of that, then I suggest you get onto Facebook and search up Start a Courier Business. Join the group, we'll welcome you in. And then once you're in there, we're going to put invitations out maybe once a month or so for people to sign up and have 5 minutes on the podcast with me. And then we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. If you want to have a rant about something that went wrong last week, that's absolutely fine. If you want to show off your brand new van to everyone and rave about how good it is, absolutely brilliant. Or if you just want to chew the fat and talk about the price of fuel cards, or anything at all that you as a driver wants to come onto the podcast and talk about, we'll give you a few minutes of fame and you can come on. And the podcast goes out on all the regular platforms, goes out on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, and all those. So you'll be a little star in your own right on the podcast. So that's coming real soon, but make sure that you get onto our social media group to stand a chance of getting in there. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've got a little bit of value from that, and it's just sort of made things perhaps a little bit clearer for what you need to do or to help you start in your journey. And I'll look forward to seeing you really soon on the next podcast.